Because airlines break a third of all wheelchairs that come through.
After hearing this, I was like, oh my god, I'm going on 3 flights in the next week and I need to bring my wheelchair. What am I supposed to do? Time to pull out dumpster wheelchair again. Dumpster wheelchair saves the day constantly. Because I've got this wonderful fitted wheelchair that's like made for me, but no, I will not risk going on 3 flights with that wheelchair. I've heard so many stories from different wheelchair users, like personally, that they've broken them and it's really hard to get them to pay for it again. Because legally they do need to pay you if they break it, but it can take months. There was actually a lady who died who was given a wheelchair that was not fitting for her and gave her sores, and then she died of those wounds because the airline wouldn't replace her good wheelchair. That's really to just show how bad it really is, but for me, I'm okay. I'm gonna take dumpster wheelchair. It's sturdy, and if it breaks, like, I will be screwed, but at least, like, I have my good wheelchair at home still. This is just, like, a terrible problem, and people need to know about it, and also we need to fix this. So in my experience with wheelchairs on airplanes, they take your wheelchair away from you. I haven't really been able to get around it. They take it when they take your baggage, and then they give you a wheelchair that's like just a standard one, and they have you push that around. Sometimes they'll let you have like an attendant that will push you around if you're alone and you have baggage, but they have always taken my wheelchair away and put it in the airplane, you know, so where it could be dangerous. Kind of possessive about your wheelchair and being like, no, you cannot have it, you have to use ours. Comment is suggesting that you might be able to put your wheelchair in a seat that's open next to you and like store some of the wheels and frame like around you, possibly in the front or possibly in the storage, which sounds a little bit like a carry-on, but like legally they are not supposed to charge you for carrying your wheelchair, which would make me think that they would be like, no, that's unacceptable. But I think this person is saying ask. You can see, maybe based on your airline, based on your flight, it might work. Airline is going to be dealing with it a little bit differently, but yeah. This is what you need to do if an airline breaks your wheelchair. It is a serial problem. They break 300 wheelchairs a day. If you're flying with a wheelchair, this is a legitimate risk. Legally, the airport is responsible for paying for repairs or a new wheelchair if it is damaged too much, which a lot of the time it is. You cannot leave the airport before you file a report. The second you leave the airport, they will not deal with it. So you cannot leave. You need to go and find customer service and talk to them. They might try to talk you out of like filing a report right now because they might say that you need more information, but you need to fill it out while you're there. If you have a custom wheelchair or an electric wheelchair, they are supposed to help fix your wheelchair back to what it was before they broke it. But in the meantime, they're going to give you a standard wheelchair that does not work for a lot of people. It sucks and it's caused real damage in people's lives, but it can take months, 6 months, a long time before you get your wheelchair back or a new wheelchair. These things are not easy to replace and they're expensive. And legally, they are required to do this for you, but you have to kind of really push it. So why do airlines break wheelchairs so much? Like, they are not trying to actively break them. We're talking about like frames being bent out of place, wheels breaking off, literal like completely destroying a wheelchair. Electric wheelchairs, because those are incredibly difficult and intricate, and they have intricate. I've heard at TSA that they've had to take electric wheelchairs apart. So when they take your wheelchair, they just put it with the baggage. It's not like they're trying to hurt it, but other baggage is just like boxes of clothes in it. But they're big, heavy boxes of clothes. For me in my wheelchair, when I take it apart, I can't even put my frame on top of my wheels because it could risk bending my wheels. Wheelchairs are made to be strong and take a lot of force in the way that you use a wheelchair. If you have the wheelchair on its side and you throw a 40-pound bag at it from like an angle, like of course something's gonna break. That's not how a wheelchair is used. It's used to get force from the wheels and spread it out from the frame. The problem isn't that people aren't taking enough care, it's that this is just systemically not safe for wheelchairs. They need to find another place to store them in a safe way that isn't just throwing them around. So flying on an airplane, I had an unexpectedly good experience. They put me on the plane with my wheelchair and then they kept it in the front. Like someone commented, like I genuinely didn't even know that was like possible. I was with Frontier Airlines and I've actually found some good stats about how much people actually mishandle wheelchairs. I'm not sure where Crutches and Spice found their information and I'm not gonna say that that's wrong. Here's some data about airlines submitting damage claims. So according to wheelchairairtravel.org, they actually think that only 1.5% of wheelchairs are broken in general. That's the industry standard. which is a lot better than 1/3 of them. I'm not going to say that Crutches and Spice is wrong, but this is just recorded data that's been submitted for claims. And that was like their standard of what they were doing if you had your own wheelchair. I tried to do some research about like which companies do this, if it's like an airport policy thing or if it's the individual airlines, but I did find some really important information about which airlines break wheelchairs the most. This is rating the overall experience for people with disabilities and how it would affect them. But in that right column is the amount of times that wheelchairs are broken. So it seems Allegiant and Delta break wheelchairs the least amount.